One thing I have to remind folks is no matter what kind of business you're in, most businesses are not profitable within the first year. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Yes, we hear and you see how much some of us are making or our sales numbers and all that, but there was a lot that went into it.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? Steve here with Rake and Profit over rakeandprofit.com, coming back to you with another video. In Oklahoma, we're at the eBay to Amazon Mastermind. We've got about 23, 24 flippers, resellers, right?
Whatever we want to call ourselves today, yeah.
Right, we're all here at this cool little mini mansion. We got a pool, hot tub. It was this is such a cool place in Oklahoma. We actually came here to meet up with one of our good friends, Ben, who we were gonna see his warehouse, but he ended up moving it to Oregon and whatnot. But we're having a lot of fun, and I wanted to bring Diane on today because this isn't just any Diane. This is the Diane. This is the face behind, the Rake and Profit book selling group, Reselling Freedom. She's always answering a ton of questions, especially a lot of the beginner, intermediate questions that maybe, I've been doing this for a long time. I forget about it. I don't know how you know everything, but
not everything.
She knows everything. If you have a question, send it to her. No.
Right.
But yeah, she's a coach of Reselling Freedom. Really appreciate Diane. We go way back to the, Caleb Roth bookseller, what were they called?
Turn the Page.
Turn the Page conferences.
Yes.
We've become pretty good friends over the years. Today we wanted to talk about, because we're at this eBay to Amazon Mastermind. It had me thinking, a lot of people want to start selling on Amazon. A lot of people kind of I hate to say it, they're sold the dream of you're going to quit your job overnight. You're going to make all this money on Amazon. And there's a ton of potential, but I think a good thing that we should talk about is the steps you need to take as a beginner.
Mm-hmm.
You shouldn't just jump into eBay to Amazon. You shouldn't just jump into wholesale. You shouldn't just jump into buying 50 pallets and spending all this money. And there's nothing, I always give credit to the people who jump in because at least they're taking action.
Yes.
But what does this make you think when I'm talking about this? Because I know we've had conversations.
Right, yeah. So like Steve said, I love, you were talking about, I love doing and working with folks that are just starting out.
Yeah.
So for me, I have constantly always worked with new employees or new business owners.
Yeah.
And it worries me when I hear people that not just are diving in, because that's a great thing. We don't want to get overwhelmed with just overanalyzing everything. We hear this phrase, analysis paralysis. We have people that are well, I have to learn every little thing about Amazon. Well, we're still learning about Amazon every single day because they're constantly moving the goalposts.
Always changing, yeah.
Yes. So you need to learn, basics, but you have to act on those. And so, but there are certain things that I worry and I cringe. And I know I've talked with some folks that are starting out. They're yes, I want to get so I do a lot of books. And so I talk to a lot of people about books.
Yeah.
And I hear people talking about wanting to do bulk and to do Gaylord. So
before they mastered thrifting and basics.
Correct. So if people do that, I'm just you're about to get, even if you just get a single Gaylord, you're about to be inundated with 800 to 1,000 books in one sourcing opportunity. And it's if you don't have those basics down of going in and reading the data that you get,
Keepa charts, restrictions, the little nuances of the MF versus FBA price, the number of sellers.
What to do with your duds, because if you do a Gaylord, you're going to have tons of them.
How to know if you're not getting ripped off, because now you're doing B2B, buying from businesses and liquidators, not necessarily your friends unless you have a good relationship.
Right. So it kind of worries me a little bit, and that's where I always like to tell folks, take a little bit of time, learn basics, do things that are a little bit lower risk starting out.
Not super scalable.
Right. So doing the thrift stores, learning how it is to be able to figure out what is worth my time, what kind of things are of interest to you too, because we don't want to do things that are just going to drive us up the wall because it's we're not interested in, they're super boring, or figuring out what is the market around me, what sources do I have, what opportunities do I have. So like you said, there's so many different things to learn about within an Amazon business, and so get those basics down with those thrifting or yard sale seasons.
Would you say what time frame would you say is the period of time from someone brand new, they sign up for their Amazon seller account, to where they could start starting to scale a bit more? Maybe they start diving into eBay to Amazon, or maybe they start diving into some liquidation or bulk, or maybe they start, I don't know, going heavier on Facebook market, spending more money, having more risk. What's that? Because you work with a ton of beginners and people who are new in Reselling Freedom.
Yeah.
When is it okay? And sometimes, you and I are both kind of hard on folks, but we're doing that out of love because we've helped so many people and we've seen people fail We've seen people win. Unfortunately, the truth is a lot of people do kind of fail and give up just because business is hard.
Right.
I know it's a loaded question.
I know. Well, and it's one of those things that there's so many questions you answer with, well, it depends.
Yeah.
Usually I tell people, give yourself like 6 months because there's such a huge learning curve. Within 6 months, especially when you're in a good quality group like Reselling Freedom, you can get through and listen to some of those coaching calls. You can learn from the other folks within the program, gather some good information there. And then I would say start testing it out. But even then, test it out.
Yeah.
So like if you are interested in doing Gaylord, don't go for a whole truckload at first. Go with a few. Because part of it also is like you alluded to a second ago, you've got to figure out who you can trust within those sources.
But why would I buy 2 when I could buy 12 and get it for $150 instead of $250? I'm just making up numbers.
Yeah, right. So if you get just 2 and it ends up being a bad source, you've only been out those 2 Gaylords, and you've only been out the time to process those 2 Gaylords. But if you shell out the money for a whole truckload, you're stuck with that truckload. And you've got to figure out, and if it's a bad source,
so it's almost like you're an intern. You're paying a little bit, you're learning on a budget. You might not make a lot of money, but you're reducing your risk, and you might not be showing a profit, but those 2, bulk buys or whatever you're doing, it's like you're paying your dues essentially.
Yes, yeah. Well, and also, especially when it comes to Gaylords, you've got to build your processes too. Because I did Gaylords. I call myself a baby bulk seller for a while. And when you first get those Gaylords, like trying to figure out how is it that I need to process these, like the physical process for doing it, plus like the workflow process is a little bit challenging, especially like for me, I'm a one-person shop. And so, and I was working out of storage units too. And so like there was the physical logistics of how do I arrange these in the storage unit? How do I arrange my processing? I brought out a laptop and had a mobile hotspot that I used to be able to process. I picked up new software that was different than sourcing in a thrift store, because when you have a Gaylord, you already have those things. That's a sunk cost. You are not, like, it's not a choice at this point because you have those books. And so trying to figure out what will help me to monetize the most out of these.
So would you give me permission? I want to hit you with like a speed mode. I have so many questions. I want like short responses because I have so many, and I want to keep this video short and concise. You coach a ton. You help a lot of people in our free Facebook group, also in our Reselling Freedom. I want to gear this towards beginners.
Okay.
Short responses. What's the number one reason you see people quit in Reselling Freedom or in the free Facebook group? New folks, 3 months or before starting.
Overwhelmed by all the like intricacies of Amazon. Actually, I'm going to change that really quick. If they're doing books, it's when they see that restricted on a book and then not realizing all they have to do is like 4 clicks and the email and they're good to go. Like that's been one of the big things.
What do you think is the best niche or category for a beginner? Someone brand spanking new, they're engaged in a lot of different things. Like what's the best product for folks? Your opinion. Everyone's got a different.
Oh yeah.
But I think my opinion's the same as yours.
Yeah. So I think books, because there are so many out there. There's so many ways to source them. Low cost, low risk, but it helps you learn the process.
For someone who's from 0 to 3 months in the Amazon business, someone who gives up after 3 months versus someone who 6 months down the road they're successful, whatever that means. Right? Maybe they're making $1,000, $2,000 a month. What's the difference between those two people? Like in their character and their discipline and the way they think, maybe their attitude. Do you ever talk to people? Because I have this all the time. People come into the program and I talk to them like, I know there's just something. I know they're going to be successful. Even if they're not getting results. There's something in their character, the way they think. Is there anything that
kind of sticks out for me? So having the realization that it's going to take time. And then I have to continue learning. So having that continual learning mentality.
The investment mindset. Okay, I don't need to make a whole bunch of money now. I'm willing to invest for 3 to 6 months.
Right, that, and also the general realization that no matter what business I'm in, I'm not going to see a profit right out of the gate. So the folks that come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm not seeing any payouts at all, and they've only been in it a month, and they only have 200 books in the warehouse, not realizing that it takes time to build up momentum and just a persistent mindset.
Yeah, that's good. I love it. What about, do most of the people you see succeeding in Reselling Freedom, do they have a job, or do they quit their job and try to do it all in? Or are they doing it on the side? Like what type, and like this is such a loaded question. I'm sure it's different, but like the most people you see succeeding in the groups that we run, do they have a job? Are they doing this on the side and slowly building it up? Because you mentioned building slowly.
Right. So I think a lot of them do have something on the side, which I think is super smart too.
I think it's the best.
Yes, because it is going
pressure.
to take a long time to build up.
Amazon doesn't even pay you, right? There's like the reserves when you're new.
Right. Yeah, we've talked about that. And it depends on a lot of different factors as to how long they continue doing those reserves. Because we have some folks that are here doing larger scale and they're still having reserves and things like that. So and I think that's really smart to have. If you want to eventually get this to full-time, like keep your part-time bill-paying job for a while, and then get to a point to where you're like, okay, for the amount of time I'm putting into this, if I went full-time, yes, it's going to replace everything.
So you think folks should start with books, start slow, maybe do it on the side, build it up. What tools, and we're not here to like promote affiliate links and stuff, but like what tools and, let's talk softwares. Are there any softwares where someone who's going to start books, and I know there's different ones. We're not going to favorite anybody. We'll just share maybe what we're using or whatnot.
Right.
What are some of the tools that a beginner should have? Because everyone's scared of subscription. I hate subscriptions too. Like who wants to pay reoccurring fees, right?
Right.
Anything stand out to you?
So of course, like no matter what area you're doing, you've got to have the seller app. The Amazon seller app is like a huge thing for beginners because that helps you identify what you're gated in.
And they get that with an Amazon seller account, right?
Right,
Free or paid plan?
That's a free app to use. And so you can use it as an individual or a pro
But should they get an individual, like should they get the free Amazon account where they're charging an extra $1? They can't sign up for apps. Buy box eligibility, I think is.
Right.
Which one should they do?
So they definitely need to do pro at this point. Like if you are planning on making this anything more than just a little hobby, you've got to do a pro account. They've changed the game on the benefits for that because at this point, if you have an individual account, you are locked at that 15 cubic feet of storage within the warehouse and you cannot raise that as an individual. You have to have that pro account. Versus a pro account, yes, you may have a little bit of smaller storage than you want, but you have the opportunity to earn more or pay for more. So that's a big thing, as well as what you just outlined. Pro accounts the doors are wide open for getting other apps to help you continually grow and improve your process and everything that's not available to our individual accounts. So going back to what we were talking about, like other softwares that's really needed. So if you're just doing books, you've got to have a sourcing app like I use Scout IQ. I know some folks
Scout IQ, either one,
either one of them. And so both have free trials. Try both of them out, figure out what makes the most sense to you and how you think through things and how you process information to figure out which one that you like. So, but that's really huge because it provides you more than just the little bit of information that you get from the seller
You go
app.
quicker too.
Yes, especially when you pair it with like a Bluetooth scanner. Because you can use your camera phone, and I did that at the beginning too. I didn't want to pay for a scanner, and so I used my iPhone camera, but it takes longer to process that information, and sometimes your camera won't read things clearly when a scanner it's scanning the barcode and it's almost instant.
Do you recommend folks pay for the $20 a month Keep a plan?
When you're first starting, and if you make sure that you get a Scout IQ, Scoutly subscription and everything, you have kind of a Keepa type data in that app. So if you're really tight and you're having to go, I only have X amount of dollars to spend each month as I get going, it's not necessary, but I'm one that goes, as soon as you get some of that cash flow in, definitely look into it because you get a lot more historical data and things.
Buy box variations.
And you can see offers, and it helps you identify if there's issues with a listing, all that kind of thing. There's so much more you can do when you have full Keepa capabilities versus, I call it Keepa Lite within the sourcing apps. So
I could say you could get away with it in the beginning without, because you're only spending $1 or $2 on items. Okay, cool. What about a listing software? Is that important to have a listing software? Or?
I would say, because I'm one of those, I'm like, I want you to learn the basics of how everything works. So do a couple of shipments using the seller app, just using Seller Central.
Because you're going to start to pay quite a bit of money to get a listing software.
Right. So
start with Amazon Seller Central on a budget, keep your expenses down.
Right, and do that for maybe the first couple of months or first couple of shipments. But then it was night and day when I switched from using Seller Central to using a listing app. I was just like, what was I doing? Because it's so much easier, and these apps are getting so much better that they help automate the process. So I have used a couple of different apps. I really have used a lot with AccelerList and GoToLister.
Inventory Lab. Those are the three big ones right there.
Yep. So those are the big ones. And they're so helpful. You get in there and you can automate a lot of things within the whole listing process.
Speed is the name of the game. Like if you want to, for anyone watching, like if you want to grow your sales, you have to spend more money on inventory. You have to typically list more. ship more out to Amazon. I mean, it's a product-based business. So the more, this is how we're getting paid. We're buying items undervalued. We're sending them to Amazon. We're letting Amazon do the magic.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So any final words for folks? It's hot out here. So, you know, the cameras, we're beating up the cameras. We're interviewing a lot of people. Any final words to the folks who are maybe just getting started or they're struggling? They're just like, oh, what do I do? Is there a light at the end of the tunnel?
Right. Just be patient both with the process and with yourself. So one thing I have to remind folks is no matter what kind of business you're in, most businesses are not profitable within the first year. And so just kind of keep that in mind. Yes, we hear like, and you see like how much some of us are making or our sales numbers and all that, but there was a lot that went into it. So one of my favorite phrases that I've shared with so many people, and I come from a staff development training background, and so I've applied this in both areas, is don't compare your chapter 1 to somebody else's chapter 20. There's so much more that has gone into how they've gotten to that point, and you'll get there.
So your chapter 1, don't compare it to someone's chapter 35.
Right, exactly. So just remember, it's going to take time. There's a learning curve, and so allow yourself time to learn things. But like I said before, don't let yourself get overwhelmed by that and get into that analysis paralysis and just not take action.
Don't look at other people's, use other people's screenshots and stories as inspiration.
Yes.
We've got a gentleman here that we're good friends with. I won't throw him under the bus, but he went from literally doing a couple thousand a month about a year ago. Now he's at 20K, and he's like, we were having kind of a personal conversation last night in the hot tub, right? We're all getting together and enjoying. He's like, oh, but he's doing 40 and 50, and Steve, you're doing 70 something. I just interviewed a guy who was doing 100 eBay to Amazon, and he's getting ready to scale up to 300K. He has a whole team and everything, and it's like, he feels bad, and like nobody, I don't want to say nobody cares about you. That's not what I mean, but like nobody is falling asleep like judging you. Like you have to worry about yourself. You have to worry about your family. You have to worry about your business. Like you comparing yourself to others is just going to screw you over. I hate to say it. I know it's not the most politically correct thing to say, but forget about everyone else.
Right. Well, and they talk about like comparison is the biggest thief of happiness too. Is that like what makes me happy? This is always going to be a part-time deal for me. You guys know what my daytime job is. I love doing it.
I want to see 100K a month out of you, Diane, by the end of the year. Q4 is coming.
So, well, maybe at some point I can. So I'm continuously learning and changing and processes, and a lot of people have talked to me. I'm very upfront about that and everything, but I can't compare myself to you because I have a daytime job and I'm in school and doing this on the side.
I just have a girlfriend and 2 cats. You know, I'm not going through my PhD.
So I constantly have to remind myself because I'm surrounded. That's an amazing thing. And the hard thing about having such an amazing community too is we can help inspire each other and keep each other motivated and going. But at the same time, if I let it can turn.
And that's the thing I always respected about you. You kind of just do your thing. You're in your own lane. You got your own, goals and whatnot. And I think that's important. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. This is not Diane. This is the Diane of Reselling Freedom, of the book selling group. So thanks for coming on. I know we could have talked for, a million hours. Say hello to Diane, tag her in the group, say hello to her. And I just want to say thank you for all your help over the last year since we've been working with one another. So appreciate it. We've come a long way from the minivan days. And I just want to say thank you so much.
You're
Inside joke. I had to do it and embarrass her at the last moment. Shout out to Caleb Roth.
Oh man.
I got her. Bye.